I have this idea of raising $4 million to create an old-school MS-DOS game, but instead of giving me money, let's take the initiative to see the new video games on the market, and what we have here is Mighty No. 9. The project lead is Keiji Inafune, known for his work on the Megaman series, and the game is considered to be its spiritual sequel. It was funded on Kickstarter in 2013, originally planned to be released in April of 2015, but was met with several delays until current year, which is now, in 2016. Let's take a look. Since it resembles the gameplay of Megaman, it does follow the Megaman formula. You start with a blaster, you go through the levels, fight the boss, and gain their power. The dash attack is a core component of the game. You use it to absorb enemies you've weakened, and for doing permanent damage to the bosses. It feels very good to use. The controls are very responsive, both controller and the mouse and keyboard combo. You can configure them however you want, and since you can play this and play it well with the mouse and keyboard combo, that's good enough in my book. You can play this game without a controller. I did play it with a PS2 controller, and I've had no problems with the movement or shooting. Any success or failure in the game is on you. The only exception to this was the back jump shot, where you hold the shoulder trigger and shoot to jump backwards and shoot diagonally down and forwards. It felt very clunky to use since there's a very noticeable delay in the jump and the shot, and I found it very useless as well. I only used it to clear mines on the ground, and I've never found any particular situation against an enemy where this would be better than a regular horizontal shot. It is possible to beat any stage with just the blaster, though having certain weapons does make specific parts easier. I used the reflect shot mainly because it allows me to attack diagonally with its auto-aim ability, and I used the battalion weapon to break down certain walls, basically the crash bombs from Megaman 2. But other than that, I found little utility in many of these weapons. Seismic's power turns you into a bulldozer. You would think you could literally bulldoze through enemies in these long horizontal areas. Nope. You bounce back after hitting one. You can't even plow through the shield guy. Dynatron's electrodes spread out, and you would think you would use it as a shotgun for those high-power, close-range attacks, but they only do damage over time, so you have to wait a bit before doing the dash attack to absorb them. These are the kinds of weird design choices the game is plagued with. The weapons seem cool, but they really aren't once you actually use them. You're using the blaster for most of the game. I think more time should have been spent on making the weapons more useful, and not just be there for the sake of conforming to the Megaman formula. One of the obvious improvements is to decrease the energy requirements in general, not just with the attack power-up. I would like to use these weapons more, particularly the reflect shot because you run out after 3 shots. Even though the energy regenerates on its own, it's slow and it destroys the pacing when you have to wait for it to recharge. I would rather have a base decrease in energy consumption for most of these weapons than the regeneration. You can recover energy from using the dash attack on weakened enemies, but the high energy consumption means the problem still persists. There have been reports of frame rate issues, but upon closer inspection, it seems the frame rate decreases gradually as you go from one stage to the next, not necessarily happening in any specific part of the game. The frame rate even decreases in the stage select screen. All of that goes away when you restart the game. That's the telltale sign of a memory leak, so there's the source of the problem. It's a very simple game, and in and of itself, the game is not that bad. The controls are solid, and the game runs well aside from the memory leaks. It's the kind of game you would expect a group of friends to create in a makeshift office with a very small budget. The problems stem from outside of the game. $4 million worth of crowdfunding towards the development of the game, and the game doesn't look and feel like much of that money went towards its development. Good graphics and voice acting don't really matter, but when you have the budget to pay for good graphics and voice acting, you're expected to do it. Let's not forget about the Mega Man fans who funded the Kickstarter that made this game possible. They did not get what they were promised, and rightfully so, they're pissed off. This not-so-bad game is a mediocre Mega Man game, and that's what matters the most to them. Many of the backers were given broken or duplicate game codes and received the wrong Kickstarter rewards. The whole development of the game is a mess, and that's the focus of my analysis of the game. Normally, this kind of game would be dead in a few weeks since everyone naturally moves on to other games once they finish it, but I really don't think the Megaman fans are letting go of this. The game itself might not be played, but the problems with this game and just the whole situation with Inafune and the development of the game will continue to be in the spotlight. Again, this is $4 million from the fans. They have many questions, one of which would be, where did the money go? Since the game is running Unreal Engine 3, the license would cost around $750,000 if they want to avoid paying royalties to Epic. The real number is negotiable, of course. They might have agreed to pay royalties in exchange for a lower upfront cost, but it's a good baseline that's available to the public. As for the rest of the money, it's obvious just by looking at the game that much of it never went into developing the game itself. I think we'll start getting some answers in the next few weeks. It seems to me that Inafune was focusing on building the Mighty No. 9 brand itself, not just the game, which is an odd choice because the game is supposed to be the foundation of what this brand is supposed to be. He did an interview with Polygon in 2014 and discussed expanding into other things like comic books, anime, even a live-action movie. He did talk about a possible sequel last year, another odd choice because the game wasn't even out yet, and he also tried to get a Kickstarter going for a completely different game called Red Ash, to which the crowdfunding failed. To the point though, what I would expect over the next few months is an official announcement for a sequel. I doubt there will be any new DLC or any sort of new content for the game, but one thing's for sure, Inafune will continue to build the Mighty No. 9 brand, and you will continue to hear about it in the future. $4 million went into funding this. Compare that to games like Shovel Knight and Dust and Elysian Tale, where less than a tenth of that amount was spent on creating something deeper and more complicated, and more fun I might add. You would think that investing in Unreal Engine 3 would make it easier to create an amazing game, but that doesn't appear to be the case here. That $4 million came from Megaman fans who never got what they were promised, whether it be the disappointing game for them or the Kickstarter rewards they may or may not have received. It's a disaster. This is one of those games that you would avoid on principle alone, but if you're willing to get past that, or you just don't care about the controversy altogether, all you'll really be getting is an okay game. Nothing outstanding or revolutionary, just the Megaman formula with the mere basics done well, and that's it. If you expect anything more than that, you'll be disappointed. The game is $20. I would not recommend this by itself, especially at that price, but it would be nice to pick it up as part of a bundle. We'll follow up on this game in a few months to see what happens. Thanks for watching!